It's cold, it's wet, it's snowy out there. It's pretty much winter, so I thought this was a great opportunity to give my workhorse a little bit of love. Now, one of the videos I get requested time and time again is how to do a lower service on your fork. Now that can include just simply changing the oil on the internals there. Maybe you're changing the seals as well. But to prove to you that it's not rocket science, I'm gonna share with you some tips today. Maintaining your suspension is absolutely paramount in my opinion. Your parts are going to work a lot smoother, they're gonna last a lot longer, and trust me, especially when it comes to your fork, your hands will thank you. I've gotta share with you a disclaimer first and foremost, of course. I'm gonna run you through the basics on my Marzocchi Bomber Z1 with air today. Chances are your fork at home is gonna require something a little bit different, whether that's just different oils or how much you use of those or even the seals. So definitely do your research. Chances are the procedure is gonna be very similar to what we're doing today, but be diligent and know exactly what you need before you start taking it apart. All right, let's get started. First things first, I always like to write down my settings with my fork because chances are you're gonna move something around and you're gonna forget where you were. So in this case, I know that I had one 10mm spacer under my stem since I fully disconnected it from the bike. I also know that I'm running 55 PSI, I'm running my low speed compression 1/3 of the way open, and I'm running 13 clicks of rebound. Now I can go about working on the fork and I'm not worried about changing any of those things. After that, I do like to remove the fork from the bike. It's not totally necessary, but I find it keeps your workspace a lot tidier, helps you to focus on the task at hand, and, you know, worst case scenario, it's a good little reminder to clean your headset when you go to reassemble. Alrighty, let's talk about what tools we're going to need to do this lower fork service. Most of these things, any at-home bike mechanic's going to have, but there are a few specific tools if you want to do this correctly. And those are hats backwards, glasses are on. Let's do the thing, shall we? First step is to release the air out of the fork, but you wanna be careful and not do it too fast. Now that we've removed the air, we need to then remove the rebound knob cover, followed by the rebound knob itself. Make sure to put these somewhere safe. This looks safe. This is where our 2mm Allen key is gonna come in handy. Next, I'm gonna grab my oil pan and move it over. And at the same time, we're going to grab our 10 and 15mm wrenches because we need to remove the bolts on the bottom of the fork. When I'm removing these little guys, I like to just firmly hold the bottom of the wrench there, just so I know I'm not stripping the top of the bolts. These are hard replacements to find, trust me. On the bottom of the fork, you'll notice when you pull these bolts off, you've actually got your little crush washers either in there or still attached to the bottom of the fork actually. These could be reusable if you don't actually want to go through the whole process of replacing the rubber dust wiper seals. But if you pull it off and you find that it's been smushed or crushed, definitely I would recommend getting a new one because that's just a leaky situation, something you don't want to deal with. All right, the time has come to grab your damper remover tools. As you can see, hopefully one of these is bigger than the other, so make sure you're putting it on the correct side of your fork. And these are definitely gonna be specific to your fork, so make sure you've got the right tool. It's gonna be hard to find something that can do this just in your garage. So what we'll do next is thread them on about halfway up the threads that you can see here exposed. And as you notice, I have turned my fork just above horizontal. That way, as I remove the damper by smashing these little guys, it's not gonna explode oil everywhere. Should be able to catch it all. And next, we're gonna grab our plastic mallet. And we just wanna gently tap it. It will require a little bit of force, but don't just wail on it. Just start by gently tapping it and seeing if we can release this off the top of the fork. All right, we have just loosened off. All right, I suspect things are gonna get a little bit messy, so now I'm gonna put my gloves on, and then we're just gonna turn the fork down and remove the lowers. This is where you're gonna get all the oil coming out, so make sure you've got your catch pan there. And very gently remove the lowers. A little bit juicy. Beauty. I'm actually just gonna lean it right there to drain. Coolio, moving right along, we've got some clean stanchions here. Just gonna remove all the excess oil as we go. And then as far as cleaning purposes go, for the inside of the lowers and all these shiny bits here, you can use warm soapy water. That's gonna work great, but I've got 99% isopropyl alcohol, also works awesome. And then we highly recommend the lint-free towels. You don't wanna leave any debris in your fork that's not supposed to be there. While you're in here, it's a pretty good idea just to check the wear of your stanchions as well. Chances are, if you haven't changed your seals for a long time or ever, they might be a little bit worn, and that's an indicator to either get it checked out further or do a service more often. Unfortunately, I did forget my favorite tool, which is the long dowel. Sometimes I'll use that to kind of press the paper towel down, but honestly, this works great too. We can just shoot some alcohol down there. We've got ourselves a tidy little unit here, so we're gonna grab that open-ended wrench, and now we're going to remove the seals in the lowers. If for some reason you don't wanna do this, or if you're servicing your fork regularly and you don't need to because they're not worn out, what I would recommend at the very least is to remove the foam rings on the inside. Just clean them, give them a little bit of a soak, and then you don't have to worry about all the extra nonsense here. But as I'm doing this about once a year, I am gonna change the seals, so let's do it. We're gonna grab the open-ended wrench because we're gonna use this to pry the rubber dust seals out. This particular fork, it's recommended to change those seals and give a full service every 125 hours of riding, which is actually a lot. I service my fork a lot more often than that. I change the oil often, and that helps me keep the seals a little bit longer. It's gonna save you a little bit of money as well. However, today, the time has come, so we're doing the full meal deal. Be gentle though. As you can see, this is a big honking piece of metal. If you just go reefing on the inside of your bushings there, you could do a little bit of damage. So just take your time. It's not that hard. Do what I do. If you just want to do the foam ring removal on the inside, I use my little pick here, and without damaging it, just gently remove it. These are reusable. If you service your fork often, you can just give them a little clean, re-oil them up, throw them back in. But we're going for the full meal deal today, like I said. Grabbing the open-ended wrench, we're just gonna put it right underneath the rubber seal and gently, does require force, but boom. Pop those little guys out. Just gonna give it a little extra spritz for good luck here. Make sure the surface that we're gonna be putting the new seals onto is nice, fresh, no sharp edges. That's beautiful. Here we've got the fresh dust wiper seal kit. Gonna open that up, pull out the foam rings first. They're nice and dry. I've seen it in the past. Mechanics have done this little number. I don't know, I kind of like it. Just kind of makes it so that they'll actually snug up on the inside of the lowers. We're gonna dump those in our clean little vessel. Put some of the Fox 20 weight gold in there, just to lube them up. Similar as you would do at a home if you're changing the oil in your car, kind of thing. While those are soaking up the oil, we can install the new seals on the fork. This is where our seal press is gonna come in handy. Again, this is specific to your fork. I have 36mm seals, so that's what size this is rated for. And it does go on specifically. There is a top and a bottom. So this little seal, I know I'm inserting this piece down. So I'm gonna get it nice and snug in there. And then we'll grab our plastic mallet again, and we're almost ready to install. With the same 20 weight gold oil, I'm just gonna use it to lube up the inside where the seals are going. And then I'm also gonna do the same thing to the actual rubber seal. So everything goes in nice and smooth. Oakley dokley, you know the saying, measure twice, cut once. It's pretty much what you wanna do in this whole situation. The seal is on the press correctly. Everything's nice and firm. There's no gaps there. Just gonna drop that into the fork and grab my mallet. Okay, with the plastic mallet here, we're just gonna gently tap. As you can see, I like to do this on the ground, so I've got a really nice, firm, supportive ground under me. And then just double check. You can see there's no gaps here, no seal exposed. Pull this little dude off. That's what we want to see. Let's go for round 2. So you've got the rubber dust wiper seal on here with the metal spring. We've got it lubed up with the 20 weight gold here. And now we hammer. Just 4 little taps, you don't need to wail on it. Double check your work. Yep. Now let's get those foam rings back in there. Foam rings going back in. You can technically do this before you put the seals in, but I like to just make sure the seals aren't gonna squish them for any weird reason. Just make sure everything's nice and lined up, no friction. As we slide it back onto the stanchions there, you're not gonna have any issues. Before we get too excited, we've got to first install 60 PSI into the system here. Now, even if you don't specifically run 60 PSI, that is the number that's recommended by Marzocchi. Then install the air cap, and then we can start moving on. I grabbed some of the Slick Honey here. I'm just gonna put it on the top of the seals so that everything slides on nice and easy, keeps it clean. Personally, I also like to put it on this first bushing that you can see, if you can reach it, which is why I've got my handy dandy. And if you can reach the second one, go on, put it there too. We're ready for assembly. Be careful, as you can see these sharp kind of metal pieces here. If you don't slide it on the fork just right, you can risk scratching the inside, but you know, it doesn't need to be that complicated. Just get it nice, evenly lined up. Oh, there she goes, okay. Okay, we've just got our lowers on there. We're gonna slide them up just a little bit, but we still want the holes at the bottom exposed because that's where we're gonna insert the new oil. And also something worth mentioning, which I didn't really touch on yet, is this little O-ring. It's kind of just to measure our sag, how much travel we used. I don't usually take it off unless it's so stretched out that it just kind of falls off. It's been living up there. But it is worth mentioning, in your new seal kit, you do get a fresh one if you want it. With that said, fork is ready. I'm now just gonna swap it so it's horizontal. And again, I'm gonna go just above horizontal so that as I put in the new oil, it's not then falling out. In the air side here, my fork requires 10 cc's of the 20 weight gold oil from Fox. So I'm gonna use up the extra stuff we had from soaking the foam rings earlier, and then just add in what we need to get 10 cc's here on the beaker. And then just because I like a nice tidy space, I like to use a little syringe. That way I get it right into the hole. I know I'm not wasting anything, but if you have a nice, measuring cup or a beaker like this with a bit of a funnel, that works really good too. All right, air side, just double checking, it's that one. For the damper side, my fork requires 40 cc's of the 5 weight Teflon oil. Cleaned out my syringe, so we're gonna suck it up into there. take 2 trips. I feel basically like a doctor here. I'm ready to hook up an IV line. Oil's in the lowers, and we have slid them on just enough so that the threads are exposed. We've got the bolts with fresh crush washers ready to install. My fork requires them to be tightened to 5.7 Newton meters, but definitely double check what your fork requires, because it would really be a shame to go through all this work, not tighten it up enough, and then you've got a leaky fork again. It's ready to go, set to my specific torque. And then again, just gently kind of hold it with the tip of your fingers just to make sure you're not stripping any of those threads. About halfway through securing these little guys on, I actually like to make sure I don't have any pieces poking out, like my crush washer, for instance. We're all human. I've been known to crush a washer during installation. We've got these snug as a bug in a rug, and so now we want to reinstall the rebound knob. Quite important, you've got this tiny little piece here and it threads right into the little notch on the top of the rebound, so just make sure those are lined up. Just snug enough so that it doesn't pull off, and when you actually turn the rebound knob, something happens. Fork is almost ready to go. I'm just gonna recheck my settings. If you remember, I put 60 PSI in here earlier. That's gonna change. I don't run that much PSI. Since I know that it's aired up already, I might as well take it out of the stand real quick and do a little equalization technique, which is just to basically put the air in the fork, give it a little bit of a squish so that the air moves around. It goes in all the chambers it needs to. Chances are your shock pump will read a lower pressure after that. As you can see, when we did that little equalization move, we've pushed up some of the excess slick oleum and the grease there. That's totally normal. Maybe just give it a quick little wipe. Same with the bottom. Clean everything up, because next time you go ride, you're gonna wanna just double check you're not leaking oil from anywhere. Just a little bit of excess is pretty normal on your first ride or two, but anything more than that and you might have an issue. And then when you put this on your bike later, double check your sag setting. Just something I like to do. That way when you go out for your next shred, you're not wondering what happened, or worst case scenario, you actually take your fork into, your local bike shop or your local suspension servicing center. If they accidentally change something on there, it's really up to you to do your due diligence and make sure it's set up for your riding. Boom. Lucky number 13. All right, let's put this cap back on. I'm happy with my rebound, so I can put my cover back on. Bada bing, bada boom. You and I have got ourselves a fresh set of forks. I would recommend at least once a season to get in there and properly have the seals changed as well. The rubber can break down over time and wreak havoc on the internals of your suspension. Hopefully I've inspired you today to at least maybe check it out, maybe get after it, and if you're like, heck no, you have no interest, then visit your local bike shop. Chances are they can help you out big time. And if you're a little bit more finicky, or if you don't have a local bike shop near you, most of the time you can send your suspension away to get serviced. Just wanna make sure you've got enough time to do that. If you enjoyed the video today, give it a like, maybe subscribe as well. That would be rad, because I love the space in here. If we could do some more tech videos over the winter, that would be rad. What do you guys wanna see?